I must say, to use 2020 as a prompt for an essay on self-reflection and to not take over an hour of your time is an overwhelming thought. Because to write about 2020 is complicated. It's been an overwhelmingly complicated year. And that could even be an understatement. If I were to oversimplify it, I could say that the main themes of the year in America were a global pandemic, duh, an extremely controversial presidential election, confronting white supremacy, racism, and standing up for the Black Lives Matter movement, economic crash and fear, and hardship and fear, and loss and fear, and I can't even handle this essay film anymore if that's how it's gonna go. You might as well turn on the news if I don't turn this around. There's no sense in me repeating what has already been said loud and clear for all of us to hear everywhere. So I want to give attention to what is not making the headlines. What else has happened to us in 2020? What lessons have we learned? How have you and I shifted individually and then collectively? How are we all doing? See, that is what is interesting to me. How are we all doing? Well, I can only speak from what has happened to me, but I can say that a top personal word of 2020 is transition, aided by the learned and sometimes forced surrender, release, and rest. And gosh darn, when I remember, I can always use a heaping scoop of compassion. But what do I mean by transition? Well, this year, so many of us, including myself, have gone through job changes, loss of income, change of home, loss of social life, and loss of everything that was normal. These massive life changes have been difficult to navigate, and at times it feels like we are all grieving. But through the changes and within the grief, I do still feel like we have moments of clarity, growth, empathy, and joy if we allow ourselves to feel it. We have transitioned from a world that was incredibly fast-paced, often distracting us from our emotions, our true needs, and each other. Although this year has had a monumental amount of confusion and hardship, it has stripped back a lot of the busyness and excess that capitalist society is so great at creating. So in that way, I feel that we all have transitioned to a different way of thinking about what our lives need to be. I have a feeling that when the virus is under control and we have the opportunity to go back to what we were doing before, we may pause and ask ourselves, is that what we really wanted?